Hello and welcome to today's LCK wrap-up. We're going to cover the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Just checking to make sure I'm on the screen. I'm kind of cutting it close. Check the teams who didn't make the playoffs. Give you my All-Pro teams. There is no All-Rookie team for the LCK because not every role even had a rookie. Um, like I said in my roundup earlier today, if you missed it, where I went over the series that happened in the playoffs in the LPL earlier between OMG and FPX, gave you a preview for tomorrow's series. I said Cal was Rookie of the Year because I think it comes down to Cal and Vikla. Cal. Um, do that and give you how I think they're going to finish 1 through 6. There is definitely some debate to be had for sure, but let's go through these teams first. In the Discord, you'll see a link to the. In the Discord, you'll see a link. In the description, you'll see a link to the Discord. If you'd like to come join us when we watch games, there is a watch party. If people want to watch, we will, make them happen as long as a mod is present. So HLE. What do you say about HLE, right? So they're swapping out junglers quite a bit this split. Not as often as probably they should have. 80 carry they swapped a couple times. It's a thing. Like, I give them credit for swapping because, you are in last place. You need to make something happen. I thought Dudu actually played very well. He might be he was their best player. And Karis was supposed to be, but Karis really hasn't been as good as we thought he'd be. Not really a lot of improvement between spring and summer out of this lineup. If not, maybe took a step back. Samdi, Gioni looked okay when he was in there. Vista stayed in there the whole time, but really, I'd argue that he could have been swapped out. Karis could have been swapped out. On Fleek was for Willer. HLE has something to work with, but there was no progress to be had. So it's almost like you may want to swap coaches. I don't recall if they swapped coaches between spring and summer. If they didn't, maybe you fire the coach and you try and get a guy that can bring that team together and improve it. That's the only suggestion I have. Maybe you look at an academy coach on another team that is used to used to using young players like that, and see if you can find success that way. Now, ninth place Fred at Brion, they need a coaching change. The way they play League of Legends is not the way that will win you games. This meta that we're really in right now was like the best thing for them. Very slow enchanter meta, very boring, and they still sucked. So they need help in a big way. I don't think Umpty was all that good, but then again, when Raptor went in there, not much changed. So I think it's a coaching problem. Lava played well. Excuse me. In many stats, he looked pretty good. Henna and Gaman, there wasn't a big difference between the two. The Delight was probably their best player all split long in the support role. I thought he was okay at times, but the difference is HLE, you have a young team with potential. With Fred at Brion, you're like, you have Umpty in there. Umpty needs to be let go. I think you need to find a different top laner. Morgan was better than Sword, but neither one really worked. Start looking at CK rosters and try and get some players, and also, like I said, get a new coach. Nongshim Red Force. Nongshim is in a very bad place. So you have a team that should not be 8th place. BDD passes prime. Ghost, not the same Ghost he was with Damwon, that's for damn sure. You have 6 different supports, and you continue to use the ones that are like 25 and over. When you're out of the playoffs, that doesn't make any sense. They should have been playing Goliath, Blessing, players that have potential long term, and gave them looks. This is not. Going with Snowflower was extremely desperate. Effort really wasn't that great. Kana and Dread at times played well. Kana probably their best player all split long overall, but Dread looked really good in spring during that meta. It wasn't good. And the difference between them and HLE is HLE have young players. You would like to think that Karis and Dudu can get better and their young players can get better. But BDD and Ghost are what they are. Kana pretty much is what he is. And they're not going to get better. Well, Kana might, but I don't think BDD, Ghost, nor whoever they choose at support between Effort and Snowflower are going to be better than what they are now. So Nongshim have a lot of work to do. They probably honestly, going into this offseason, I think they have the most work to do out of all these teams. Kwangdong Freaks, Keen looked downright awful this past year. This meta did not fit him at all. Sejuani Ornn was not his meta. He was atrocious. Some series going like 0-8, and it happened like multiple times across an entire series. Like, not impactful at all. Teddy was kind of screwed. I mean, I give this team credit. They were swapping out supports, but you have a lot of problems there. I don't think Fade is that great. Elam is arguably the worst jungler in the region. So really, it's Keen and Teddy, and Keen wasn't doing anything. So it's Teddy V9 every game. Moham and Hoyt. I mean, Hoyt was better than Moham in the end. But by how much? I mean, it's more like a Nongshim situation than an HLE or Bro situation. You have an older team that honestly needs to figure out what it wants to do. It needs to look at mid lane. It needs to look at support. Look elsewhere to try and improve the team. Keen has been with the Freaks forever. So losing him would be very bad for the fan base, I'm sure, for any fans they still have. But they need to do something. They have work to do as well. Figure out why he was inting his face off in the instance of Keen. Why was that happening? There has to be a reason for it. And if they know the reason and didn't fix it, well, then that's on coaching. But it was pretty bad. So that's how I feel about that. Just make sure. Did I hit record? I did. Jeez, it would have been pretty stupid if I hadn't, right? Oh, I did this backwards again, huh? Like I did last time. I'm really bright. Okay, so start with the third team. Third team support is Kale from Live Sandbox. Many weeks he looked very good for a rookie, impacting the game in a big way. Keeping Prince alive, Prince 1v9, you have to give the support some credit for doing that and keeping him alive. I honestly, Sandbox's bot lane is the bright spot that is carrying them, and we'll get into that further. But, I thought Kale had a great split. I really did. I think he might be the best rookie support in the world this season, which isn't saying a lot. I mean, Kadaya was the one yesterday, right? And I don't even know. Erdate probably, maybe for BDS. I mean, everyone else is escaping me right now for LEC. And LCS, I don't even know if there would have been one. I mean, honestly, I don't know. So, that's that. Third team bot laner, Aiming. I'm a big fan of Aiming, but down the stretch, he kind of wasn't quite at the level of Prince and Ruler, pretty much. Giving a hint for my first and second team. Which order, though, you don't know. But he played very well, all split long. He was KT's best player. Even when they were losing, he was dominant. I thought that their bot lane was definitely their strongest part. And we're going to get into it more leading into the playoff talk, but Aiming, very good bot laner. A very big split out of him in a split across the major regions that honestly had the 80 carries in the spotlight, and many good 80 carries took it by the horns and actually did very well, across all four major regions. So it was nice to see. Third team mid laner was Closer. The middle part of the split, Closer was definitely the best mid laner in the region, putting up big damage numbers, nice KDAs as Sandbox started to improve after the early part of the split and struggling a little. Closer, very good. I mean, he's coming into his own now. And we're going to see during the playoffs if he's kind of able to take that next step and actually establish himself as a top 3 mid laner. But I felt like in summer, he did put the numbers up that was warranting that, designation. Third team jungler is Canyon. Despite Canyon's struggles, we do have to respect that he's one of the best junglers in the world when he's on. And I thought he did well given the circumstances. I think Damwon actually, So LNG and BLG end up getting into the playoffs, right? Two disappointments from the LPL. Vitality doesn't in LEC. Biggest disappointment. But I feel like Damwon is around that LNG BLG area in terms of disappointment. Adding Nuguri, we thought they would be better, which I'm going to get into in the playoff predictions. Pretty much what I'm going to keep saying for all these teams. But Canyon, you can only do so much, you know, and Showmaker really hasn't been at the level they need to be. So in that case, Canyon is third team, and I think Canyon obviously is super good. And actually, still, Nuguri, similarly, Nuguri at times, was he the player we thought he would be coming in? Like, oh, is he going to be the top laner again like everyone was hoping for? And it just didn't happen. This meta, I don't think was really fitting him, similar to Keen, but he actually was able to make it work at times on a better team. And, you know, the top side of the Rift, I think, was left a little bit on the table from what we're used to out of DK, but at the same time, it was still better than most of the teams in the region. So that is the third team. Second team support is Keria. If it wasn't for Keria's trolling, he might have been first, given his Camille game. You know, like, very good support. This meta did not fit him at all. Enchanters are not his thing, it looks like. Engage champions are. Obviously still very young and raw. Alongside him, Guma definitely took a step back. So Keria is doing the best he can. I'm still high on Keria. We'll get into playoff predictions, but I do hope that we do see him at Worlds against the world's best, because he is at the top when it comes to support. Second team bot laner is Prince. Going into the split, I knew nothing about Prince. I'll be honest, I didn't. I had Sandbox 10th out of 10 teams going into the split. 100% transparency, right? I'm not afraid of saying that. I didn't know anything about Prince, and in the end, Prince is what got them to the playoffs. Like, he was elite. He was elite, putting up 20 kill series left and right. In my roundup earlier today, 2 series against DRX, he had 24 and 25 kills. Like, that is Prince. Prince goes off. And when he is feeling it, there are double digits in the kill column for him. He is a very good 80 carry, and honestly, I would argue is he the MVP? I think that there is an argument to be had for Prince being MVP, even though he's not first team All-Pro, which we'll get into, but I think that argument can be made. Now, this is going to piss people off, but I don't really care. Second, mid laner, Zika. Zika put up good stats, underlying stats. Nice KDA, nice CS per minute. His matchups at 15 minutes, solid. Solo kills, solid. Like, he was not, I don't know. The mid lane really wasn't that great this past split after Chovy. Showmaker wasn't that great. Faker took a back seat and really was a facilitator. And Zika and Closer both very closely, in terms of just stats and everything else, put up good damage for long portions of the split and actually affected things for their team. There was a window where Deft wasn't doing much. And in that window of time, Zika had to take the team and drag it through series trying to win games. So for that, he is second team, which is probably going to shock some people. Why is Faker not in here? Well, because look at his stats. Second, Peanut. The guy pulled out Skarner before anyone else. He's pulling up Morgana on occasion. Peanut returning to form as one of the better junglers in the world, depending on the meta. This one being one of them that he is good at. Just a very solid player, and actually fits gen.g perfectly to allow Ruler and Chovy to take over games. Facilitates, makes things happen. Just a very, very, very good jungler. I believe he didn't get first blooded once this past split. Didn't get solo killed. Things like that did very, very well. First team top laner is Zeus. said first team top laner, didn't I? Sorry. Second team top laner. Which is going to shock some people. I think Zeus is better than who I have at first. But this past split, he wasn't. I think T1 took a massive step back. I don't think this meta was all for Zeus. There were a couple series, as I went through my roundups and sneak peeks, that, oh yeah, he dominated that series, didn't he? But the thing is, it's not like it's a surprise that he did. Because really, there were not many series where Zeus took control of the series, dominated his matchup like we thought he would. And the meta didn't allow that. So, in the end, second team. First team top laner, because I just said it, Doran. This does not mean Doran is better than Zeus. This means that the meta this past split fit Doran on weak side to a T. Zeus is not a weak side top laner. Nuguri really can do both because he's been around so long. But Zeus is not at that point in his career where he can probably do both at the same level. Where Doran is weak side, he is not a carry. If it's a carry meta, Doran is not the best top laner in a split. That's just being honest. I think everyone can be honest about that. But this past split, he took the weak side very well, played his role, facilitated, big team fighter, and he did his job. Didn't get outmatched either, which is a big deal because on the weak side, you have to make sure you don't get outmatched, and he didn't. So for that, he ends up being first team top laner. First team jungler is Owner. Owner, one of the better junglers in the world, can do anything. And because of that, when it was carries, he could do carries. When it became Poppy and Trundle and Xin Zhao and things like that, all of a sudden Owner was still one of the best junglers week in, week out. You saw it in my top performers when I looked at stats. He is one of the best. It just is what it is. His Lee Sin is absolutely cracked across his entire career. Owner, at his age, is on pace to be one of the better junglers that we'll ever have if he can continue his trajectory. Mid lane and bot lane are from the same team, so let's just do this. So Chovy and Ruler. Chovy is the best player in the world. I was not going to not have him as a first team all-pro. Like, he's the best player in the world. He's the best player. Opens up big holes in the gap. I mean, he gaps his mid laner across from him every single matchup. He doesn't need to solo kill him. He doesn't need jungle pressure. He gets ahead in every single matchup, and he wins. He wins. He's won for years. He continues to win. I don't even need to say more. Chovy is first team. Ruler. This is where the MVP talk comes in. So Ruler, statistically, and in my opinion, was the best bot laner himself this past split. Very good, but he's on a very, very, very good team. He's got the best mid laner, and I would argue one of the top 10 supports in the world in Lehens. Doran's doing well, Peanuts here. So you have to say to yourself, if you swap Aiming and Ruler, do Gen.g go 15-3 instead of 17-1, 14-4? What is it? I don't think that they end up going 9-9, if that's what I'm getting at here. But I feel like if you took Prince away from Sandbox and you put in Aiming, I would say Sandbox and KT are pretty similar. I'd say Aiming because KT has Rascal, and Rascal's a big player. So if you put Aiming in place of Prince, I think Sandbox don't make the playoffs. I think that they're borderline. Maybe they're 9-9 instead of 11-7. And all of a sudden, Sandbox isn't viewed the same way. So in that case, honestly, this is a hot take, but I'd probably make Prince MVP for that reason. It's not about who's the best player on the best team. It is the most valuable player to a team, and I think Prince is the most valuable player to his team. Support is life, which hot take instead of Lehens, right? I think Life and Aiming played very well. Life not dying a lot, doing well in the Vision and Ward game. Just a very good player in general. You know, a lot of people probably like, oh, Life isn't that great. Well, it's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I just thought Life looked really good this past split. He did his support, the job of a support well. Did not int games. If you int games, you're going to just make me want to take you off this list. So, if you're an inter, I'm going to say, well, if you don't respect the game, I guess I don't respect putting you on here. Not like you care. But fans care, and that's why I said it. So, sixth place, playoff predictions, DRX. I think DRX are outclassed. Someone asked me on my power rankings why DRX isn't in the top 25. Because it's Deft V9. I just don't think that they have it. I think Kingen is outclassed. Pioshik right now is struggling by his standards. Zika is up here, but there is a big gap here, and he is not ahead of everyone else enough to even remotely carry. Deft could carry on his best day, and Barrel's an inter. If Barrel played to his standard, to our expectations of Barrel, all of a sudden, Deft and Barrel, they can make a threat similar to what KT is doing with Aiming and Life. But until then, they're sixth. Now, this is the toughest part. The absolute toughest part. So, first, we're gonna skip around. So, first is gen.g. Why are we skipping around, you might ask? Well, I still really don't know who I want to have fourth and fifth. So, gen.g, elite. Best defensive team in the world. Best macro team in the world. Them versus JDG is what I want to watch. Them versus top sounds like a very slow game. But JDG versus gen.g is offense versus defense. I explained it last week in my power rankings. I think that is a matchup that will be exciting to watch. I have them first. I think that right now this meta, and the fact of the matter is, we're going to do, because it comes down to these two, right? So we're going to talk about why it's gen.g and not T1. And why T1's even, second. Guma has not been up to snuff. And like I said, Faker is not carrying games, really. So, with those two carries not carrying compared to Ruler and Chovy, they are outmatched. Zayas in this meta cannot carry games over Doran reliably. It just doesn't work. You would have to cater drafts in a way that isn't what we've seen, which 12-15, maybe if they're on 12-15, that can happen. But as of right now, the edges T1 have over gen.g are not applicable in this meta. Excuse me. Third place, KT. Oh, KT's third, huh? Oh. Wow, huh? Shocker, right? So, KT, so between Sandbox and Damwon versus KT, right? So, KT have the edge in top lane. I think that Rascal is way better than what Nugri has played this split and what Dove has played forever, right? I think Cuz, Krakow, similar. Canyon is better than them, hence being on the third team. But can he really take advantage of that? Not as much. Mid lane, I think Vikla has played very well as a facilitator, taking a secondary role to Aiming and Life. And Aiming and Life are the best, are a bot lane that is at a level of Prince and Kale. So, in the end, we look at it and we say to ourselves, well, the edge for KT then against Sandbox will be Rascal. And Rascal is one of the few top laners that, even in this meta, is aggressive enough to get solo kills in top lane and actually cause some havoc. And with that, I have KT third. And then this is where it gets tough, right? So we have Sandbox and Damwon. So, Nugri has the edge in top. Canyon has the edge in jungle. I would say Closer has the edge over Showmaker this past split. Closer's done a lot more work, hence being third All-Pro team, than Showmaker. Showmaker's played awful by his standards and fair, and in the fans' opinions, probably not up to what they thought he would be as well. He doesn't die very much, but he's not really carrying games regularly. And in bot lane is a massive gap between Sandbox and Damwon. And that is why I am putting Sandbox 4th and Damwon 5th, which is crazy to think about. I mean, honestly, if you told me this 6 months ago, I'd have said you're high. I would, wow, what the hell happened? Like, what the hell happened, right? And what happened was Showmaker didn't show up. He has not shown up. He makes the shows, and the show's canceled. I guess I don't know. Duck Dom and Kellen are. I mean, I'm taking Prince and Kale. So the thing is, though, these teams I don't think will play each other. If KT wins, right? KT beats Damwon, then Damwon are out, and they go to the gauntlet. And my assumption is Sandbox would then lose in the next round after beating DRX. So Sandbox ends up in the gauntlet, and that's when they'll play each other for 4th seed or 3rd seed or whatever. But I think Sandbox has the edge over Damwon. I really do. I think the bot lane is the reason why. I don't think there is enough of a gap between Nuguri and Dove right now in this meta. Nuguri does not offer quite as much as Rascal does in terms of aggressiveness to take advantage of the matchup. So right now, that's what I have. So comment down below with who you think the 4 LCK teams will be that go to Worlds. Comment with any of your other opinions. All of us are allowed to have an opinion. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Later on today, you will see a patch breakdown where I just go over the teams that might go to Worlds that are in the playoffs still in the 4 major regions, and see which ones might like patch 12.15 the most, or ones that might not like it. Some teams might hurt them more than it helps them. So we'll look at that. And like I said, thank you for watching. I hope you come back for more content.